Hi everyone, Sajid Amit here. And in this video, I want to talk about my views on the 64 Audio U12t, which I am going to try to get back to my stable. I'm considering repurchasing it. So if you've been around this hobby, of course, you know of many people like me who have changed their minds on gears, which is a good thing. I think one has to have an open mind. So yeah, so my tastes, as insofar as they've evolved, are such now that I do appreciate the U12t much more than I used to. So I am considering buying it back. And this decision was partly aided by the fact that I have recently acquired a very wonderful DAP, the Aslan Kern flagship, the latest flagship, which is the Ultima 2000t. It's right here. It appears chunky, but it's actually very light compared to previous DAPs that they have come out with. And it's a wonderful sounding DAP. It has a tube mode, and I'll have a separate review of this. Now, without further ado, to jump into a discussion on why I'm, this very famous IM has found favor with me again. I have to say that it's, I think I underappreciated this, right? And I got it back recently because I'm trying to get back into IMs, and mostly because as things return to normal, of course, I'm traveling more, commuting more. So, I definitely think I'm going to need more IMs, use more IMs. I have a couple of DAPs now. So, yeah, so having been around the block with regard to IMs, I just feel like I'm more sensitive to IMs that are not well tuned. You know what I mean? So let's say, for example, in the case of headphones, if you see that guy over there, the Abyss 1266 5TC, it has a very strange tuning, but there are lots of people like me who love it, who own it and love it. And I really love the Abyss. It is not Harman tuned. It is not traditionally tuned. It has a very strange V-shaped, or some people might say W-shaped tuning. And, it's been working out for me great. However, with IEMs, I feel like I'm more sensitive to tuning performance. And of course, technicalities matter, but you also want technicalities to be presented to you in a nice, palatable way. So you don't want details crammed into your face or your head. Or whatever. So yeah, I do think, even if I don't do a review of this, I do want to talk about its strengths and weaknesses. So among its strengths, first of all, are the fact that it's wonderfully tuned. Like I said, it's not Harman tuned, but it has this interesting tuning that is from the bass onwards. If I, start, it has this interesting bass, sub-bass sort of lift, which makes it quite rumbly. And the bass extension is quite wonderful for people like me who like sub-bass a lot. I actually prefer sub-bass to mid-bass. So this works out well for me. The bass can be accentuated by using these M20 modules. So the M20 modules, as opposed to the M15, will basically give you more bass, sub-bass. And they also have the effect of releasing air pressure from building inside your ear canals, which is wonderful. Because I can be sensitive to that kind of pressure and discomfort. So the 64 Audio U12Ts, because of this, Apex module-based technologies, allow me to use them for hours, which is noticeably, more comfortable for me than using other IEMs where, the pressure buildup happens in a more perceptible way. So that is, of course, one massive advantage. The other is, of course, the fact that, I was just talking about the tuning. The bass shelf is wonderful. It is not dynamic driver bass, so the texture, the decay, they're not as natural as you might find in a dynamic driver IM. But that said, it is wonderful for a BA. And if you're not in a nitpicky mood, you might actually not find too much of a difference, I dare say, between the bass of this and the bass of a dynamic driver IM. Mid-range, the mid-range is fairly naturally tuned. It sounds quite natural. There's a bit of a dip in the upper mid-range, which has the effect of positioning vocals sort of a bit distant from you, which also, aids to or lends itself to a deeper stage. And I like that. I like the presentation. The treble is beautifully done, I think. The TIA driver, which essentially takes care of the treble. These drivers are apparently very close to the nozzles, so they fire the treble frequencies directly into your ears. And that has the effect of creating a very sweet presentation. The tuning also helps because I think there's a bit of a recession in around low to mid treble, which you won't feel per se. It still feels pretty sparkly, I think, because of how close the driver sit to your ears. And I think they do avoid sibilance by tuning it that way. But there's also air frequencies above the 15 kilohertz range, which a lot of you will be able to make out if your hearing is that good. And it does lend itself to this very beautifully sparkly, airy presentation. And I really like the treble here. And I think Treble has will really like it as well. So yeah, I think overall the tuning is quite impressive. In terms of technical performance, especially starting with detail retrieval, it is a detail retrieving monster. It surpasses a lot of headphones I've heard in a similar price range. Let's say, for example, not exactly $2,000, but let's say if you compare it to an Aria, which is around $1,600, this out-resolves an Aria. I have also A/B'd this with my Stellia. The Stellia does out-resolve this, but the Stellia is, of course, a $3,000 headphone. But it's wonderfully resolving, and you hear so much information from the tracks. And the best part is the information is presented in a way that is very palatable and very pleasant. It's not sort of, forced on you. The imaging and soundstage are pretty impressive for IEMs. The soundstages can be out of your head on certain tracks. It's extremely deep and holographic, and I love the way separation happens on this IEM. The width is fine. Timbrally, I think there's a bit of a BA timbre. If you are very nitpicky, you're going to notice it right away, like some of my friends have. But I think it can be overlooked because it does everything else so well. And the BA timbre is not as offensive as it can be on other IEMs. And the other thing about timbre, though, is that the 64 audio IEMs, and I think this is true for a lot of 64 audio IEMs, and especially for the U12t, there's a certain softening around edges of notes, which some people will, I think, charitably would describe this as having an analog presentation. But I just think it has a slightly softer presentation, right? The images are pretty fairly defined, but the music still has this certain softness to it, right? And it's a very distinct U12t or 64 audio thing. And initially I didn't like it, but I think over time, because it does everything else so well, that I've decided to overlook it. And once I have overcome it, I think it was just an amazing presentation. And I love how, unlike a very random comparison, but unlike the raw requisite SR1A, which I discussed in a previous video, this IEM is actually something that won't make you skip tracks, because almost every genre, every musician, every artist sounds wonderful on the U12Ts. And it does, of course it will reward you if you play higher quality tracks and tracks that are mastered better. But it is still a very forgiving IEM for the kind of information, the level of information retrieval it has, and its overall technical performance. So yeah, I mean, as far as flagships go, this is pretty much a great blind buy if you have to do a blind buy, or if you're looking to get into flagships and you're unsure of the tunings of several flagships that are around you. So this is, a wonderful IEM, and it does receive my highest recommendation, provided you can overlook the certain things that I just talked about. Yeah, so that's it really. I hope this is something that helps you. And if it does, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. It does help out. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in my future videos. Bye.